Typically, the idea initially was to get up to 20,000 cubic feet per second by Wednesday. They got to that today. No indication yet from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as to where they will go next. That's really a play-it-by-ear sort of situation, and the Army Corps will make that decision as that time draws nearer. Ralph?
Okay, Mike, thanks a lot for that update. What hit Manhattan is heading down the Kaw River to St. Mary's and to the points beyond. We're expecting a 30-foot crest on the Kansas River here at Topeka. If there's a lot of rain, it may go to 32 feet. 13 Sally Moore reports, meanwhile, that residents on down the stream from Tuttle Creek along the Kaw are taking very few chances.
We're just selling sandbags so they can protect the entrances to the house.
Just about everyone in Surrey.
You think anything about it until you walk down and actually stand there and look at the river running by as quickly as it's going. You know, the thought of all that running down the streets is a lot different than just a little creek or a little stream. It's considerably different than that. So.
Emergency crews say they're fully prepared and on standby just in case parts of Shawnee County need to evacuate.
We've got everything in place. The system's working well. We're working very closely with everybody involved in emergency preparedness as well as the Corps. It's just a matter of maintaining cool. If anything does change, we'll be out there immediately working with the media to let them know.
The Red Cross has a shelter for local flood victims located at Rossville High School. Officials say they're keeping an eye on Soldier Creek and Cross Creek, but they're watching Mother Nature even more. They say anything that's going to happen will most likely happen after midnight. Summer intern Aaron Casebeer, 13 News at 10.
Okay, Aaron, thank you. And we had promised earlier in the day to give you this information about the Red Cross shelters. She mentioned Rossville High. They are urging you to bring your own bedding, medicine, and toys. No pets if you feel you need to go. Manhattan and Ogden, you go to K-State University Center. That's at 17th and Anderson. Shawnee County, there's the Rossville High. That's right up on Highway 24. That shelter, the first one opened. In Pottawatomie County, you folks, if you would like to go, if there's high water, go ahead to Rock Creek High School on Flush Road. Douglas County, Lawrence High is the Red Cross shelter there, and you know where the high school is at 19th and Louisiana. And Wamego has given us this location, St. Bernard School at 1006 8th Street. That's the one in Wamego. We have also had the Emergency Preparedness Center prepare for you the very latest flood information. They are calling into the 13 City line. You can get that information by entering category News and press 2 for their flood information on the 13 City line. Coming up here on 13 News at 10 tonight, we'll tell you what else happened today. The first of 3 finalists for the USD 501 superintendent's job was in this.
When the Albrights' parents were trying to outrun the waters of the Kansas River, a time many of the people in this area remember all too well.
We called the guy, there's no guy that lives up the road. We called him and see how high the water got in the 51 flood, and he said it got 58 inches. Rose up about halfway downstairs there, so I guess that'd be about 5 foot.
But this time around, Blazer is hoping he won't have flood stories to tell the next generation of residents.
Now, the hardest thing for many of these residents was deciding what to keep and what to risk losing to the floods. And many say they'll continue checking on their homes throughout the night. But the amazing thing was all the neighbors who showed up to help. Ron?
Thanks, Deidre. In other Midwestern states, flooding is creating fresh problems tonight. Another day means another levee break. This one an hour and a half north of St. Louis in Calhoun County, Illinois. Floodwaters have virtually cut off the small town of Hardin. In St. Louis, the Mississippi has finally crested at 46.9 feet, almost 17 feet above flood stage. Upriver in Iowa, the floodwaters are finally receding, but very slowly. And it may take weeks for Des Moines to restore water to the city's 250,000 residents. Meanwhile, trucks are bringing in fresh water from across the country.
We'll check back in with Bill Spencer a little later to find out what's ahead this week as far as rainfall goes.
Areas, the water surging from Milford was so powerful it was eroding the sides of the spillway. So engineers have now cut that flow in half. Here in Shawnee County, we're still pretty much flood problem free. That has not stopped questions about possible health hazards. County health officials say if you're working around floodwater, no need to worry about waterborne disease, but flood workers should have had a tetanus booster within the past 10 years. It's not just people flooded out of their homes. Family pets have been forced out of their homes as well. Manhattan kennels are filling up as people try to keep their furry friends safe. So Topeka Kennel wants to help by offering a place for any temporarily homeless pets to stay. The J-Car Kennel has room for 20 animals. They can stay free, but call before you go. The number there is 478-4626. Convicted rapist Donald Gideon is on his way back to Kansas. Authorities here are waiting to question.
Just a greenhorn buckaroo of 22. Life's mystery had me hurting, hung up helpless and confused. My life just sort of grinded to a stop when I got some worldly wisdom from my pop. He pushed his dusty cowboy hat back on his graying head. Said, son, I ain't learned much from this old cowboy life I've led. Just a few trail tips every feller should recall to guide him through this vexing vale of tears without a fall. Always drink upstream from the herd. Say it sweet, son. You might have to eat your words. When you get bucked off, get back on. And don't squat with your spurs on. Everybody's got to squat sometimes. Smart ones take their spurs on first. Since then I've drawn a few bad rides in life's rodeo. I've learned the higher up you fly, the lower you can go. And Daddy's wisdom helped me through a time or two. And that's why I pass these trail tips on to you. Never fry your bacon in the new. Don't waste a good hoss on some bit-jerking dude. Never speak a discouraging word. Oh yeah, always drink upstream from the herd. I've had it both ways, son. Upstream is better. Oh, take it to the bunkhouse. A tender ballad. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Here's one of Woody Paul's own.
Blue, blue bonnet lady, why are you so sad and all alone? Blue, blue bonnet lady, do you need a shoulder to lean upon? Well, I'm just a lonesome Lone Star cowboy. I'm needing someone to. So, oh, blue, blue bonnet lady, come with me and you won't be blue. Blue, blue bonnet lady, I bet you're sweeter than the rose of San Antone. Blue, blue bonnet lady, our pretty Texas flower shouldn't be so all alone. 'Cause I'm just a lonesome Lone Star cowboy. I'm needing someone too, and that might be you. Blue, blue bonnet lady, come with me and you won't be blue. Come on, wipe that Texas teardrop.
Change we had early this morning, that could change drastically right now.
At Milford, the amount released was similar to Tuttle Creek, but since it was the first time ever, an unforeseen problem: washout erosion. So the outflow was cut in half.
Tom, please, he needs you right now. The milk has not been picked up. There's the fellow, Tom from SRS.
Okay.
He's
At the Red Cross shelter at the local high school, evacuees settled in and made themselves at home.
They're also using this as a location where they can also go to work and come back to from and place to get meals.
From Geary County, Mike Matson, 13 News.
Mike will have a live report from Tuttle Creek tonight on 13 News at 6. It's not just people flooded out of their homes. Family pets have been forced out of their homes as well. Manhattan kennels are filling up as people try to keep their furry friends safe. And so a Topeka kennel wants to help by offering a place for any temporarily homeless pets to stay. The J-Car kennel has room for 20 animals. They can stay free, but call before you go. The number is 478-4626. In Des Moines, Iowa, running water was back briefly today until too many people tapped in. Now it looks like it will be tomorrow before there's enough water pressure to resume limited service. One pump at the flooded water treatment plant is back.
Helen Neal, thanks for joining us for the special one-hour edition of 27 News at 6, The Flood of 93. I'm live at the Shawnee County Emergency Preparedness Center, and we have a lot of ground to cover. Here's a look at what's ahead. We'll have the latest from Manhattan, where an evacuation advisory went out this afternoon. We'll also show you some problems that cropped up at Milford when they opened up the flood tubes there. I'll also talk live with the executive director of the Red Cross here in Kansas. We'll find out the latest on statewide flooding problems from her. And we'll look at the situation in Topeka and find out just how high the Kansas River will crest here. I'll be back in a little bit with that live interview and a lot more from our vantage point in northern Shawnee County. Right now we'll go back to Ron in the studio to kick it off with evacuations west of Topeka. Ron?
Thanks, Helen. Residents from Junction City to Wamego living along the floodplain have gotten advisories to evacuate. Authorities have not made the evacuations mandatory, though. But with this morning's rain, the opening of floodgates at Milford and Tuttle Creek, there's no telling how bad the flooding could get. We begin our team coverage with a look at the situation in Manhattan. Lynn Jelliker spent the day there. She joins us live from the newsroom. Lynn?
Ron, about 165 families in the Dix Addition area of Manhattan have received word they should consider moving out for the time being. Once again, the city has not made those evacuations mandatory, but residents of several low-lying homes still face quite a long battle, one they could lose if more rain comes our way. They built and built higher, sometimes feeling they were coming close to losing the battle completely.
A couple 3 feet from the top of the wall there, but the problem is we're running out of the plastic visqueen, and it's coming to the top of that, and it's going to come through on the top if there's no visqueen to cover over it. So.
Volunteers finally found more plastic to cover the backside of the sandbag wall. And as they continued pumping water out there, they started extending the wall yard to yard as the water slowly crept further and further.
We're keeping it away from these anyway.
What you see behind me is not the Kansas River. As a matter of fact, residents say the river is about 2 miles in that direction. And everyone building this wall says since Tuttle Creek opened yesterday, they've seen this water rise from a couple of inches to about 6 feet.
This stuff you usually can't see. I mean, it's always soggy and swampy down here, but it's never, you can hardly ever see just running, standing water.
Scores of people spent the day filling and piling sandbags for people they don't even know. While many residents threatened with losing their homes were bringing belongings to safer spots, the fire department shipped in outside help, many of whom already secured their homes or face no threat of flooding.
Basically just everybody. There isn't one certain type of person. Some people are even from towns that are even downstream that their houses are squared away, but they came up here anyway.
Some elected officials also pitched in today and expressed hope a disaster declaration from Governor Finney's office will make a difference.
And my hope is that will translate into some real aid for us. We need it pretty badly.
Meanwhile, some of those leaving their homes say it's difficult to feel very hopeful.
I mean, I've been living here about 20 years. You know, I bought this home. Do something, I guess. I don't know right now. I can't think straight.
Now, some residents are sticking it out, trying to protect their belongings in their homes the best they can. But city officials say more rain could make entering or leaving the Dix Addition area impossible, so they are encouraging people to take the evacuation advice. And if people do need a place to go, the Red Cross has set up an emergency shelter at the Kansas State University Union. Ron?
Thanks, Lynn. Well, those not evacuating or helping with sandbagging and the like have decided to go sightseeing at Tuttle Creek. This marks the first time in the history of the dam that the Army Corps of Engineers has opened up the floodgates. Residents from across Kansas have made stops at the swollen reservoir just to get a glimpse of the surging waters.
We used to camp up here about 20 years ago with the kids. And we said, well, we saw it on the TV at Kansas City last night. And we said, well, let's just drive up here and take a look.
So what do you think?
Oh, it's a lot of water.
Do something. My trailer's getting underwater, and this is what's causing it. I just thought I'd come up here and see what's happening.
20,000 cubic feet of water flow through the floodgate every second. Now, the traffic has gotten so bad over the dam that authorities have closed it to all but emergency vehicles for the time being. Well, we'll show you what happened at Milford when the gates opened last night just a little bit later. We'll go now where she has Shawnee County Sheriff Dave Manili with her.
That's right, Ron. As you can guess, all this flooding up and down the Kansas River has kept law enforcement officers very busy. One of them joins me now, Shawnee County Sheriff Dave Manili. And Sheriff Manili, you've just taken an aerial tour of the river. Tell me what it looked like.
Well, it looks pretty good right now. I was pleased with what I saw. But we can see where the low-lying areas are and where we've had trouble before. And we're going to keep flying it to make sure every time it rains I go back up and look at it. So we're going to stay on top of it and so the people can relax. We're going to watch it for them.
What's the biggest concern right now?
Well, the biggest concern, I guess, will be when Milford really starts pushing the water down the river. We're at about 26.5 feet, I think, now.
This is Riley County Emergency Preparedness. The city of Ogden is experiencing sewer problems at this time. Ogden residents should refrain from using the sanitary sewer system. I repeat, the city of Ogden is experiencing sewer problems and the sewer system has been shut down. Please do not use the sanitary sewer system in the city of Ogden. I repeat, this is for the city of Ogden residents only. Thank you. Please return to your normal programming.
Volunteers, and that's what it's going to take.
And tell us a little bit about, we're out at the command center. Tell us a little bit about what goes on here. This is kind of an organization coordination center.
Well, it is. This is where my staff meets out here so that we can coordinate where we want the people to watch, where we want them to block off roads if that's necessary. We also answer phones and answer questions for the public. We've answered probably hundreds, which relaxes their mind a little bit. So that's basically what we're doing right here, so that if it does flood, we don't get cut off. We got the highway accessible to Rossville, Silver Lake, and that's why we're sitting up here.
All right, thanks very much, Sheriff Dave Manili. And Ron, as you can tell, they've got a lot going on here, a lot to keep track of. We'll check back with them, of course, throughout this evening, and I'll send it back to you now.
Thanks, Helen. Well, everyone wants to know what the Kansas River will do next. Chief Meteorologist Bill Spencer is keeping track of that for us. He joins us now with the latest. Bill?
All righty, thank you, Ron. The river continues to rise. We're going to take a look at some of the area river conditions at this hour. And if we take a look at Topeka, we do have an update, which I'll show you in a different graphic in just a minute or so. But late this afternoon, the flood stage is at 26 feet, registered at 26.7 feet. It has risen just a bit. We'll have the updated number for you in just a bit. Bellevue, again, the top number in green would be your flood stage. The bottom number in yellow would be your current condition. So a couple of feet above flood stage at Bellevue. And Wamego reporting around 2.5 feet or so above the flood stage. As you go towards Manhattan, we did get an updated report. It may be a few inches higher than the 24.8 indicated here, but well above the 18-foot flood stage. And Fort Riley would be, looks like about almost 2 feet above flood stage in Fort Riley. So once again, as far as Junction City is concerned, you're way above the flood stage. Flood stage is 22. Today you're registering around 28 feet. In Lecompton area, about a foot above flood stage. But here's the update from Topeka. We just got this in. It looks like it's around 27.3 feet, so bring it up just a little bit. Still expecting a crest of around 29 feet. That would be in about 24 to 36 hours. Again, all this depends upon additional rainfall and release in the system. It looks like, yes, there is more heavy rain in the forecast for tonight. In the Manhattan area, again, we are still expecting a crest of around 25 feet, and that would be also within the next 24 to 36 hours. So all this depends upon what's going to happen, and we still continue with yet another flood watch in effect. Early areas back towards the west, the thunderstorms developing back across western Kansas again. They seem to be running ahead of schedule. Last night they were about 6 hours behind schedule, came in around 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Thunderstorms are developing back towards the southwest even as I speak, so it looks like this round of thunderstorms will likely come in several hours sooner. Then later tonight, as the storms approach from the southwest, we do have that flood watch in effect for all the area. So earlier on across western Kansas, especially after 11, 12 o'clock tonight into the morning hours for eastern areas. So Ron, all the computer models tell us tonight around 1 to 2 inches widespread, but there may be patchy areas of perhaps 3 or 4 inches of additional rain during the next 24 hours. Back to you.
Okay, well, more bad news. It just keeps coming and coming. Well, so the crest here in Topeka will come tomorrow. For more on the situation here in Topeka, we'll go back to Helen Neal.
Thanks, Ron. Unless we have a major rainstorm here, it sounds like Topeka may escape all this unscathed. But residents of North Topeka have been, the rumors have been flying there since this past Sunday. Rick Bloom caught up with a few of the residents who were out there talking about the flood of 1951 and are very worried tonight.
Yes, they really are, Helen. Senior citizens in Oakland and North Topeka are the most worried about what could possibly happen when the floodwaters surge down to Topeka. They remember that the promises that officials made 42 years ago, they remember those promises. They also remember the promises and the flood levees back in 1951 broke down. The 1951 flood left hundreds of homes underwater in North Topeka and Oakland. The memories of that awful July 42 years ago still live on in the minds of these longtime Topeka residents. Now they're debating whether it can happen again.
Well, it still can come back.
No, I don't think we'll have it as bad as
I don't know. You never know.
No.
If we get some more rain.
If we get more rain. But we're not going to get more rain.
Well, you remember this is Kansas weather, honey.
People at the LULAC Senior Citizen Center haven't pressed the panic button yet. The memories of the 51 flood are making Fern McCoy take extra precautions.
I'm prepared. I got my car loaded. My sister-in-law's car loaded with all my pictures and things and insurance policies. We'll take out.
Senior citizens of North Topeka and Oakland are no strangers to rising waters on the Kaw, but the memories of 51 remain so vivid for some of them that they may be overreacting to this year's crisis. The only major road closed in Topeka so far remains River Road, but Teresa Martinez says that good news didn't keep all the seniors at Pappen's Landing in North Topeka from leaving early. She says they were all afraid the evacuation notice would come any time.
You know, there has been so many rumors that, you know, everything closing, Goodyear, and I don't know what else, see, they don't know this. They're just afraid to even watch TV because that's what's going to come ahead.
Most victims of 51 haven't headed for the hills yet, but they do have some advice for those that are casting a wary eye towards the Kaw.
Just sit tight. It's about all they can do because we really didn't get excited, but when my husband came in and told us that they was coming to set us up, then it was time to worry.
Now, Helen, directors at Pappen's Landing actually brought in nurses today to try and explain to these people that the floodwaters aren't here yet and that that they've got precautions ready for them, but I don't think the fears of those senior citizens are going to go down until the floodwaters go down.
Why do you think they still feel their homes are at risk tonight?
Well, they feel harm's at risk because they think they've got more rain than they did in 1951. That's simply not true. What the situation was in 1951, I called the National Weather Service today. In July 51, they got 11.5 inches of rain. So far this year, we're probably looking around 7.5 as of right now. The fact is, that's not a real problem. The problem that senior citizens really should worry about is the rain in north central Kansas, because that rain is going through Tuttle Creek, which is going through the Kansas River, which would cause the eventual problem if it happened in North Topeka and Oakland.
Sounds like that will have an impact on us all. Thanks a lot, Rick. And so hopefully we have someone coming up next who can help allay some of those fears, someone with some very real facts about what's going on and what the state's doing to help. Terry Book of the American Red Cross, head of the Kansas chapter, and you just returned from a meeting where you were talking with officials from the state and other agencies that are helping folks get through this time. What did you all discuss, and what did you decide, if anything?
Okay, we've been having 2 meetings a day just to keep everybody briefed on what's going on and what the different agencies are doing. I do want to assure people that the governmental agencies and the private sectors are very much watching out after the communities. We are watching the water levels in the river and in the creeks. Preparation is there. We know which roads are closed, you know, in the areas, what it will take to get those open. The good news at this point is that the crest levels on the river tonight will be no higher than what they have been, even a little bit less than what they have been. So that's good news, at least at this time. We are still, because of the weather and the rain, needing to monitor what releases there will be on Milford and Tuttle. And that is monitored, and the good news is that there will always be good communication to the citizens of what to expect with floodwaters coming up.
Was there any discussion of if any state aid will be forthcoming anytime soon?
The State Division of Emergency Preparedness has submitted all the appropriate paperwork through FEMA to get a presidential declaration. At this time it is for designated counties in the state of Kansas. We will still be waiting word on that, but everything has been submitted. We feel positive that that hopefully should be signed, and additional counties will be added as needed.
And you are definitely the person to ask. Where should people go right now if they're worried about flooding in their home?
Okay, if people are concerned about flooding, or would just feel better if they got up on a little bit higher ground, not knowing what might happen during the evening, is there are shelters open in the Riley County area, Manhattan. It is the Kansas State University Union, Student Union, which has been operational since this weekend. In Junction City, it is the Junction City High School. In Wamego, we have the St. Bernard building, and then north of Wamego, we have the Rock Creek High School. As you move closer this direction, there is a shelter open also in Rossville.
What do you need to take with you if you're going to go to one of those shelters?
At this time, because of the number of people that we are sheltering, we don't have adequate cots and blankets for everyone, and we are focusing most of those in the Gary County and Riley County area where most of the people are. So we do encourage people to bring a sleeping bag or a comforter and a pillow with them. If they have any medications, they need to bring that. If they have small children or children, bring a few toys for the children to help them feel a little bit more comfortable.
Definitely. And if someone at home would like to help out, is there a place they could send any donations or anything?
Donations are accepted. We'd like them to be earmarked for flood victims or flood relief. They can be sent to the American Red Cross at Post Office Box 4414, Topeka, Kansas 66604.
All right. Thanks very much, Terry Book.
Thank you.
And Ron, another thing that's come up a lot is people have been noticing that people have been calling this the 100-year flood. So we asked the National Weather Service for a definition of just what that is. Let me get out the official definition here. Okay, a 100-year flood for this area would be like the one that we had in 1951. That flood swept through, of course, Junction City, Manhattan, Topeka, Lawrence, and Kansas City. Now, it caused $1 billion in damage, and that's in 1951 dollars. And Ron, we have a long way to go here before we could possibly have that kind of damage. It could take another 15 feet before the call would actually top our levees.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Well, we have a lot more of our Flood of 93 coverage to bring you, including live interview, and I'll have what's happening in Junction City as we show you the threat posed by the call to the Riverfront Mall in Lawrence.
You're watching 27 News at 6 with Ron Harbaugh, Helen Neal, meteorologist Bill Spencer, and Len Lehman with sports.
Our house was the perfect size when it was just the two of us. But now that we're ready to start a family, we need more room. We're building onto our home thanks to a loan from Capital Federal.
With a home improvement loan from Capital Federal Savings, you can repair, remodel, or add to your home. Loans are available from $1,500 up to $50,000 for most home improvements, from room additions to garages to swimming pools.
We just finished remodeling our kitchen with a loan from Capital Federal. They approved our loan fast, and it even included our new built-in appliances.
Capital Federal offers home improvement loans at competitive rates with nominal closing costs and no points or loan origination fees. And interest is fully tax deductible for most homeowners. Ask about a home improvement loan today. We're Kansas' #1 residential lender, Capital Federal Savings.
Northeast Kansas is getting a taste of the flooding that has plagued many other parts of the state. This spring, flooding caused major problems around Emporia and Strong City. North Central Kansas has seen a lot of flooding as well, especially in the Saline area, and now it's our turn. One of the communities that has evacuated parts of it was in northeast neighborhoods in Junction City. Our team coverage continues with Deidre Davis, who traveled to Junction City and Melford Reservoir today. She joins us now in our newsroom. Deidre?
Ron, residents and businesses along Grant Avenue in Junction City got a bit of a reprieve from the floodwaters today. Last night, the Kansas River did come out of its banks, but problems at Milford Spillway forced the Corps of Engineers to cut the outflow from the lake in half. Residents don't think they'll be that lucky again tonight. After 2 days, volunteers worked more like pros, unloading bag after bag of sand in assembly line style. About 300 volunteers and employees helped Jim Clark build this 4-foot-high wall around his business. He's moved the inventory, cut off sewers and storm drains, and brought in high-powered pumps, ready to get the water out as soon as it starts seeping in.
Yeah, and we'll be here around the clock. The management staff is just divided up. The management staff, every employee here, divided up time to stick around and save our jobs.
But most of the businesses and residences along Grant Avenue appeared deserted. When word of the rising water came, they piled up sandbags, closed up shop, and waited for the worst. The worst never came. The water raging out of the spillway today only equals half of what the Corps of Engineers originally released. Yesterday's tremendous flow of water cut into both banks of the spillway, taking most of a parking lot with it.
When it got to the point where it started eroding back toward the dam, we decided we had to cut back, for the safety of the dam and everything. And
Engineers worked throughout the day to temporarily repair the damage by placing huge rocks along the banks. They hope to return to full capacity later tonight. But in the meantime, water will escape through the emergency spillway. Now it's only a trickle, but officials expect it to increase, which could mean even more trouble for Junction City.
Well, we will not be able to release any more than we were yesterday. That was our maximum flow through the tubes. But if it starts going over the spillway, yes, there's a possibility of having more than they had yesterday.
Yesterday, the water didn't reach the majority of homes and businesses on Grant Avenue, but it came close.
But it was encroaching up Grant Avenue, but it was still a couple hundred yards down from us, which means it had a drop of about 6 inches from us. The avenue is so flat through here.
Our donut is open. We need to stand back.
Clark still had a few more spots around the building to shore up before the water comes tonight, and a little cooperation from the river wouldn't hurt either.
If we have water running, then there's no sandbagging is going to help us. If the water just rises without washing out all of our efforts, then we'll be all right, I think, with God's help.
The Corps does plan to start releasing water at full capacity as soon as possible. And we have heard that they're starting to sandbag the Junction City Police Station. They're also shoring up other areas in Junction City, so they are preparing for the worst tonight. Ron?
Thanks, Deidre. We have a couple of telephone numbers should you need any information on flooding. Now, residents here in Shawnee County can call 286-3319. That's 286-3319 for flood information. People in Riley County can call 537-0054. Again, 537-0054. Douglas County has set up a rumor control hotline. You can reach it at 832-5303. Again, 832-5303. And we'll have more on the situation in Douglas County a little later. The biggest loss in all of this flooding so far has come in agriculture. We go back live to Helen Neal now at the Emergency Preparedness Command Post for more on that. Helen?
Ron, hundreds of thousands of acres of prime farmland sit underwater this evening. For example, some fields north of Tuttle Creek have 30 feet of water in them. We spoke to the Dickinson County Sheriff, who told us the Smoky Hill River has flooded fields from Solomon to Junction City. The unfortunate part of all this, most of these farmers do not have crop insurance. Joining us live to talk about the impact flooding will have on the Kansas crop is Kansas Ag Secretary Sam Brownback. Secretary Brownback, thanks for joining us. How bad is it?
Well, it's bad. We've got about 3.5 million acres in the state of Kansas that have been directly affected by flooding water. That's on top of a number of other acres that were affected by hail earlier on. And to give you some perspective, we've got about 20 million acres in these 4 major crops, and 3.5 million have been directly affected by the flooding.
Which type of crop would you say is going to be the hardest hit?
It's really a little hard to say right now. Wheat obviously is hard hit. We're in the middle of harvest, and in eastern Kansas, we've got 80% of it still out in the field, and it's really going to be heavily damaged. But you've got these fall crops that are going to be significantly hurt as well, particularly the longer they sit with soaking fields. Water's normally good, but you get this much, and it really gets harmful.
What part of the state, if you could point to one, would you say is going to be the hardest hit as far as the farm crop goes for the year?
Well, we're really looking at the northern 2/3 of Kansas, if you can imagine the region being that big at being hard hit. You've got northeastern Kansas being very heavily hit by the rain and the flooding that we had, but actually it's the northern 2/3 of the state, and you can point to places all across the state that have had significant crop damage.
This is going to obviously have some sort of long-term impact with this heavy flooding. What would you say that might be?
We really don't have the numbers yet. Well, we know it's 3.3 and it's been affected and more of it's coming on the way. It's a little hard to predict just what its long-term impact is going to be. Further above that for as far as its direct economic hit on us.
I was mentioning a lot of the farmers who are being hit have no crop insurance. What kind of list? Obviously a very bad one.
Well, it does have a big impact on them. When you don't have crop insurance, and even if you did have crop insurance, it doesn't cover the full cost of what you can get out of the crop. While there's disaster assistance programs that are put forward by the federal government, those are generally about 20 cents on the dollar that a person gets. So you're looking at probably a minimum of that 80 cents on a dollar loss of input on the crops.
That's incredible. Now, what kind of overall atmosphere would you say there is in the Kansas farming community right now? I'm imagining it's pretty pessimistic.
Well, it's pessimistic, but you know, there's a real resilience amongst Kansas farmers. You have to be to farm because you're at the mercy of Mother Nature year in, year out, and that resilience remains there. Although, I tell you what, you keep going at this day after day, you have a record snowfall in the winter, and you go into that day after day, it starts to really wear you down.
This really has been a dramatic year as far as weather goes. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we have lots more Flood of 93 coverage ahead, including a look at what the situation is in Lawrence.
See your local Jeep and Eagle dealer.
Ever since Hardy started carrying chicken, my KFC's been buzzing. Their commercials put folks in the mood for chicken, and when you're in the mood for chicken, where do you go? KFC. After all, in taste tests, my new extra tasty crispy beat Hardee's. So I'd like to thank them for their advertising. I kinda like it.
And now get 10 pieces of original recipe or extra tasty crispy chicken for just $5.99. You heard right, 10 pieces, just $5.99.
In Lake Edna or your neck of the woods.
You ever negotiated with the Japanese before?
This is hardly a negotiation.
It's a homicide.
Coming July 30th. Never underestimate your opponent.
There!
Sean Connery.
They won't get away with this.
Wesley Snipes.
Don't talk about it, just do it.
From the #1 bestseller, I'm a black belt.
Of course you are, Dale.
Rising Sun, rated R. Starts Friday, July 30th at theaters everywhere.
I think men and women should share household chores. Don't you? I cook, and my husband, Bill, does the dishes. He's terrific at it. He always scrapes the plates, and he never, ever overloads.
No matter who does the dishes, Cascade does the dirty work. Other leading brands can leave spots so your dishes look dirty. Cascade with sheeting action gets them so clean they're virtually spotless.
Perfect! Just like you, my little...
Some of the biggest farm flooding around Topeka is just to our east. That's where Jefferson County authorities told residents living south of the Union Pacific tracks to evacuate yesterday. Waters in that area are expected to get as much as 6 feet deep on the floodplain. Further to the east, the waters of the Kaw are lapping up against the Riverfront Mall in Lawrence. We sent Mary Elbow over to Lawrence to check out that situation. She joins us now from our newsroom with more of our Flood of 93 team coverage. Mary?
Ron, Douglas County faces no immediate threat of flooding right now. In fact, they're in better shape today than they were yesterday. Now, the Kansas River crested at between 20 and 21 feet yesterday, but since then, the river level has fallen, which is good news for the Riverfront Mall. Spectators flocked to the Lawrence Riverfront Mall to watch the mighty Kansas River roll by.
I was in the 51 flood up in Topeka, but it didn't seem like this. I think it's because of the jetty out there.
As long as we were in town, we wanted to see what it really was like. And this, I mean, it's, you know, you're so close to it. You feel it, you hear it, you know, you can see the trees just right over here, which is sad.
Mall management is watching the water level with even greater interest.
The river's down about 3 feet now from yesterday. It's our understanding that more water is being released from the reservoirs and that we should expect that to arrive here Thursday. In the meantime, it's our hope that the river will go down a little bit so that we can accommodate the additional water.
The water level remains 15 feet below the lowest level of the mall itself and 3 feet below the lowest end of the promenade. But the mall has stacked up some sandbags at the riverside entrances just to be on the safe side.
Our concern is that if the water rises to such a level that it does become a threat, we're simply not going to have time. So it's probably something we don't need to do, but I'd rather have done it and have it not be necessary than to have it be necessary and not have made the effort.
Now, while Douglas County remains in good shape, rumors are running rampant. That's why the Emergency Management Department set up a special hotline. They urge anyone with questions to call 832-5303, again, 832-5303. And I'll have more on the situation in Douglas County tonight at 10. Ron?
Thanks, Mary. For a town of about 400 residents, St. George in Pottawatomie County is having its own share of water troubles. Although the folks don't have to evacuate, they do have to leave their homes if they feel the need to use the toilet. Flooding is resulting in the shutdown of the town's sewage treatment facility.
Sewer treatment plant sits right down almost next to the river, and it's built up on an island sort of, but they said that they'll probably lose it. It's been just coming up real slow.
The solution, town officials shipped in about a dozen porta potties, and just down the street, high waters have also caused part of the road's shoulder to collapse, bringing a gas line and sewer line with it. KP&L and city workers spent this afternoon repairing the situation, which they say caused no threat to homes or residences. The gas line did not rupture in the collapse. Well, remarkably enough, flood relief supplies have started on their way to northeast Kansas. A group in Boston called Second Helping has been sending food and relief supplies like water and bath articles to the Midwest. A truck bound from Manhattan left Boston this morning.
I feel that I'm working and my husband and I both have a good job. We'd just like to help someone else who's really in need right now. It's awful to see things like that happen. It really is.
Makes it seem like the country is that much smaller, that everyone can come help each other out. I think it's great.
Seems to me that we're all in the same place. So when somebody needs help, we give it.
The supplies from Boston will arrive later this week. Second Hand has also sent goods to Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. We have more of our comprehensive flood coverage to come, plus we'll have other news of the day. But first, Chief Meteorologist Bill Spencer will tell us if we will ever shake these rains.
It's been a record-breaking year at your Chrysler Plymouth dealer. So how should we bring it to a close? With a record-breaking clearance. Enjoy a selection of Concords, Automobile Magazine's Automobile of the Year, and remarkable savings on all these 93 cars and minivans. Like roomy Plymouth Voyager. Save thousands. Save up to $1,900 on the sporty Plymouth Duster and up to $1,325 on the luxurious LeBaron convertible. The record-breaking clearance. Now at your Chrysler Plymouth dealer.
The Corvettes are here, Topeka. Hi, this is Betty Semeka. After 2 years and lots of help, the Topeka team won the bid for the National Corvette Club Convention, and now it is here. Help us celebrate this week-long convention by attending the special public event. And let us all extend our warm Topeka hospitality so that the Corvette Club members feel at home. The Corvettes are here at last. Let's show them our support.
We make a good deal better at your quality. Buick dealers.
You'll get your best value on a new Buick during dealing days. Choose Park Avenue or Ultra, the ultimate in Buick luxury. Now with up to $1,000 cash back. Or choose Roadmaster and get up to $1,500 cash back. Buick quality for thousands less than Acura Legend, Lincoln Town Car, or Lexus. Don't wait. You'll get a good deal better now at your quality Buick dealer.
It's a special event going on right now at Ed Marling's, where you'll find tremendous values at Ed Marling's Super Savings Tent Sale. 2 truckloads of fine furniture direct from the factory in La Crosse, Kansas, have unloaded over 100 different styles of sofas, sleepers, and sectionals into our gigantic circus-style tent. We've no more room in the store, so we've set up shop on the parking lot. You'll save 30 to 60%. This is a fantastic time to save, and save big. Ed Marling's Tent Sale. Don't miss it.
Want to know the best place in town to be seen? Anywhere in the Lincoln Continental. And now you can have one at a great lease price. With all this style and sophistication, no wonder it turns so many heads. Inside the 94 Continental, there's a luxurious interior with every amenity you can imagine, including standard dual airbags and anti-lock brakes. So, the only other place to be seen? Your Lincoln Mercury dealer, of course.
Bill Spencer's weather forecast has been approved by the American Meteorological Society.
It's a beautiful evening out here at the Command Center for Flood Control in Shawnee County. The bill in this case looks are deceiving, at least in terms of what kind of power or potential for problems this weather's packing.
You said looks are deceiving, and all of a sudden I appeared in your shot with you. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know.
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal. If this weather doesn't change pretty soon, I think it's going to get rather personal. But all kidding aside, Helen, it looks like every afternoon, every evening, the sun comes out. Ron said the exact same thing yesterday. What a beautiful evening. And then come around midnight, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, the skies open up with several inches of rain in a few locations. It looks like this time around the rain is going to come a little bit sooner. It's already popping up on radar. Let's take a look at the radar, speaking of radar. And you can very easily see that we do indeed have some rain activity developing to the south of Emporia, to the southeast of Emporia. And some of this rain activity is reported to be a bit on the heavy side. Put it in the motion for you. You can easily see that the rain is starting to increase. Now, what is happening? Although the jet stream we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the past couple of weeks that is beginning to retreat a little bit further north, there's nothing really in the atmosphere to kind of kick this stuff out of here. Notice here, it's hardly moving. But we do have a brand new weather instrument I guess I want to debut for you tonight. It's our NexRad coming out of Kansas City. Now, if you're a NexRad fan, if you don't know what it is, I'll explain it to you. What it is a radar that picks up the radar echoes, a very powerful radar. It uses 16 different levels of colors instead of the conventional 6. So we have hooked up to Kansas City, Pleasant Hills to be exact, and we're getting a real good look back across the northern and northeastern Kansas. Nothing there. As a matter of fact, the last frame, it popped out of order because the radar automatically stops sending signals when there's nothing there, although right beyond radar range, we do have something near Emporia. But nevertheless, we do have NexRad coming out of Missouri looking back, and when Topeka gets hooked up, we'll also have NexRad from 2 locations, Topeka and Pleasant Hills and across Missouri, so we're quite proud of that. But taking a look at the latest river reports for you, again, we're going to give you an update on Kansas River and Topeka in just a bit. But you can notice that the temperatures, I should say the flood continues to be rising near Manhattan, now approaching around 25 feet. Flood stage, for example, would be around 18 feet. What about Junction City? Today, the flood stage is 22, and we have 28 feet being reported today, 17 and 18 at Lee Compton. And there's your update from the Kansas River in Topeka, 27.3. That just came off the wire, so it has risen. Flood stage is 26, and we're still expecting a crest of around 29. Manhattan area, well, obviously 7 feet above flood stage by the time it does crest within the next couple of days. We continue with flood watches in effect for later on tonight, and they continue for early tonight across western Kansas. Put the radar into motion. NexRad not picking up anything in Missouri or back towards the west, but we are seeing from Topeka radar thunderstorms developing just to the south of Emporia, and a big batch of rain developing across southwestern Kansas. The jet stream retreating to the north, but there's really nothing here at the lower levels to push that storm center out of the way. Satellite sequence does indicate the moisture once again developing in earnest down towards the southwest, so that's something we're just going to have to watch. 3D satellite continues to show all the moisture pouring into western Kansas and heading in our direction. Global shot, there's that ridge of high pressure, but still Topeka right there getting plenty of moisture. So there's your forecast for tonight. Developing at just about any time, a flood watch. Heavy rain developing, low in the upper 60s. Tomorrow's forecast, flood watch in the morning, heavy rain, local floods. What else is new, right? 75 degrees mid-morning. The sun comes out tomorrow afternoon, 86, partly cloudy. And on Thursday, more thunderstorms and the high 87.
Same.
Same thing. Well, I'll have the 5-day forecast for you in about 20 minutes or so at the end of the show, hopefully. But hey, we're proud to announce that we do have NexRad coming out of Missouri.
Good.
That's going to help us out Topeka and areas north and east.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Well, believe it or not, we have not forgotten sports. We'll have the latest from the Chiefs camp. But next, we'll have some more news, including Topeka's search for new superintendent of schools.
His most award-winning car is now America's #1 car, Ford Taurus. So how do you get to be #1? By keeping up with the needs and wants of our toughest critics, you. That's why Taurus now offers
standings in the military. So the flood of '93 has come to northeast Kansas, and unless the rain stops, that could be just the beginning. Let's go back live now to Helen Neal, who has spent part of the day at the Shawnee County Emergency Preparedness Command Center. And Helen, tell us about the activity that's going on out there.
Ron, actually, it's relatively quiet right now. It's a beautiful evening, and they're not getting the calls they have been. Usually they have a lot of calls coming in. As you can see over to my right, the Salvation Army has set up a canteen for the emergency service crews to come in and get cooled off, get something to drink as it is very hot, and there really are concerns about heat exhaustion. Now, coming back around, you can see behind me another truck, and inside this air-conditioned truck is where there are 4 people staffing this 24 hours a day, taking phone calls about what's going on, people's concerns, also taking calls in from people reporting from different parts of the county to let them know so they'll have that information to give out. It's kind of like a coordinating center. These crews will be here 24 hours a day. They are taking calls. They have a hotline. And really, though, it's actually pretty quiet right now, which is a good sign, I guess.
Helen, are they getting quite a few calls? People have a lot of questions?
Not lately. I know they've had a lot of calls about rumors, as we talked about earlier in the newscast with Rick Bloom. Residents of North Topeka have been very worried. So they're spending a lot of their time, I think, trying to stifle some of those rumors, stop the rumor mill for a little while at least. But right now, it's really pretty quiet.
And some people may be wondering why they set up the command post so far from any river.
Well, that's a good question, and that is a point a lot of people have raised. I know this is a good place for them to receive all their communications, so they will get clear communications, and it is a good coordinating point, so I think that's the real reason behind it. It is a little way away from things. It's actually at West Indianola School.
Okay, thanks, Helen, reporting from the command center. Well, northeast Kansas residents have survived another busy day with concerns about flooding. The waiting game and sandbagging goes on this evening in and around Manhattan. The Army Corps of Engineers has opened the floodgates at both Milford and Tuttle Creek. More than 2,000 Manhattan area residents have gotten notice to evacuate their homes. And the story looks the same for Junction City, where residents along Grant Avenue have fled because of the releases from Milford Lake. And needless to say, we are not anywhere being out of the woods yet. A lot depends on how much more rain we get in the next few days. We plan to keep a close watch on the situation, and we'll do our best to keep you informed of any changes along the Kansas River. Our hourly updates will continue through tomorrow morning, beginning with 27 News, today with Lynn Jolliker at 6:30. And a lot of that depends, of course, on the potential for rain.
You know, we get a host of computer models back in the weather office, and every time you look at it, such as our 5-day precipitation forecast there, except for minor wiggles and minor dry spots that try to pop up, the overall basic pattern, as you can see, doesn't really change. So in the short term, another 1 to 3 inches of rain can be expected tonight.
Okay, just what we don't need. How about sports?
Despite all the rain, they're playing ball at Valley Field. The Capitals in a doubleheader with the Red Sox. They had that tarp over the field, so everything's safe.
Okay, good. That's our news for now. Thanks for joining us. More coverage coming up tonight.
It's King at Toyota of Olathe, Nissan of Olathe, and quality Chevy Mazda. Whatever your down payment, we'll match it in discounts. Put $2,000 down on a new Chevy Lumina, and we'll match it with a $2,000 discount. Get a new 93 yourself for just $74.88. Save $5,000 on a brand new Nissan. Or make no payments on any new or used car or truck till 1994. Lower your payment, shorten your term, get a match down payment. Cash is king, but only this week.
real fruit juice and less sugar than most kids' cereals. So when your kids say, you'll gladly say, okay, Berry Berry Kicks.
This must be my lucky day.
They captured a whale with a temper.
He doesn't like anybody.
And the only one who could reach him was Jesse. By winning his trust and making Willie his friend, it made Jesse a hero. Free Willy, rated PG. Now play.
Why is Tux medicated pads the brand of hemorrhoid relief hospitals trust most? Because when hemorrhoids flare up, Tux provides soothing, cooling relief on contact. Tux, the brand hospitals trust most.
If you're looking for itch and pain relief from bug bites and allergic rash, look for...
This is the area that borders the Dix Addition right now. Kind of see where the levee lies right here, the bottom of the picture, and the water coming from the blue backing up around towards the Dix Addition. This is the bridge just over the blue, and then back along East 24 Highway. There's Dick Edwards again to give you a reference point.
That's why the Highway 24 is close to Wamego, obviously.
Right. That's exactly.
Okay, as we look over these areas, especially the Dix area, can you just briefly tell us what happened in the Dix area? Did the Blue River change course? Is that what finally did them in? Because they had a massive sandbagging effort, I know, in the Dix area.
Well, we've tried to explain a little bit about what's going on, and we'll have some good video of it when we come up. I'll try to show you the exact path of the water and what I understand by Corps of Engineers and city officials occurred. This is looking on farther east on 24 Highway, where we do have some more of the blue cutting across. You'll probably recognize there the co-op elevator. And on out toward the end of the 4-lane. And give you a little better idea of what's happening out there in certain areas.
But the one thing you can sure see about all these pictures is there's water everywhere.
Well, there's water everywhere, and I want you to know that when we took these pictures, I'm not sure how fast the wind was blowing, but it wasn't a real stable ride.
Yeah, you were up in the helicopters, I understand it. Being a former helicopter pilot, I understand that these are not the most stable airplanes to be in, especially trying to film video. But I think you did a remarkable job. What are we looking at here now, Pat?
Okay, this is part of the blue just east of Manhattan. I think we'll pan around here. Okay, that's looking south now over the blue toward Zendale, and then panning back toward the city. Now this is we've kind of switched positions now. This is along the levee again, where the city water pumps were that are not using currently.
I should ask you, Pat, about the city levee system. Without the levee system, as I understand it, the mall area and most of downtown would now be underwater.
That's the way I understand it. Just looking at the old contour maps and location of the 51 flood, to give you an idea. But right now it appears to be the best asset we have to keep the water out.
That along with Tuttle Dam.
Right, Tuttle Dam. It's held a lot of water back.
Okay.
This is part of the city right here. We're flying kind of east right now, coming along the Dix Addition. Right over top of the Dix Addition right now. And looking toward Countryside Mobile Home Park at the top of the film.
Sure looks like the Dix area is definitely underwater.
Okay, this is the area that the water did come from, as far as we can tell. You can kind of see a low area there where the water did flow, and we're flying right along that area. The trees right at the top right that just went out of the picture is the Kansas or is the Blue River. This is the Knox Berry Addition.
Okay, now I think we should tell folks this was filmed yesterday morning, and the outflow was at 60,000, and the majority of the flooding had occurred at this time, hadn't it?
Yes, I don't know of any additional flooding since that time.
Okay, why don't you tell us where we're looking now, Pat, if you would?
Yeah, this is the area along Casement Road, looking up toward Nelson's Landing, right there at the top of the picture. We are flying along the Kansas, along the river, place where the blue has come out of its banks. Most of those on the Pottawatomie County side of the river. Still flying along it, looking up, I believe right at the top end there is north now. Okay, coming back around, we've turned around, looking more east, flying back south along, trying to give everybody an idea of what it looks like flying over Manhattan looking east. And you can see water a long way out and going east. This is the railroad trestle that's just east of Manhattan. Orient you a little bit. This is the Dix Addition, just flying straight north now from the Dix Addition.
The Dix Addition obviously is the worst area in Manhattan as far as the city goes.
Yes, I believe so. That's from what I could see out of the helicopter. Appeared that most of the water and structures that were affected are in that Dix Addition.
Okay, as you go downstream along the Kansas River, and where the Kansas River becomes the Blue River on downstream, is flooding worse, say, east of here?
I think we're seeing quite a bit of flooding in the fields. It doesn't affect near as many people because of the farm ground and so much in our county, but there is a large area out there in the Zinedale area that is flooded clear back along K18. In fact, it's got K18 East blocked altogether in a couple of places.
Now, there's been devastating farm losses to this too, hasn't there?
Oh yes, I think it started back on Mother's Day and has generally increased dramatically since then.
Okay, seem to be flying over some farmland here, probably showing some of the crop damage from the floods.
Yeah, looking a little bit, get a little bit oriented here. I'm sure this is probably Knox Lane out in that area. I believe this is the Knox Berry Addition, looking north now. To give you an idea of how wide the Kansas is in that area, and you can see the flow right there where the Kansas turns, where the deepest water is, and how it had affected that area.
Now, is this where the Blue and the Kansas combine and is causing the backwater damage?
No, actually, this is upstream. This is just before that area commonly referred to as the gooseneck. You can see right there where the trees are, and still a lot of foam coming down the river. And generally, right in there is the area that it did come out and go down through Patricia Place and Knox Lane and into the Dix addition.
Okay, that's where the river made the bend, and then it took a shortcut when the Corps of Engineers had to release so much water out of the dam.
Well, I think that's what we're seeing is that's probably the low area. I think that's the old Kansas, the old river basin. I think it was changed in 1903, and it just kind of followed that path. This is the Nelson's Landing addition and the Valleywood addition. You can see that there's doesn't appear much water at all in this area right now.
See, Nelson's Landing, they're having a massive sandbagging now, aren't they, to try to save that area?
I understand that took place yesterday, and I did receive some information after our press conference this morning that there were still 11 families in that area. My understanding last night was that most of the residents there voluntarily evacuated. They're looking at Rocky Ford there, top of the picture, and this is the Juanita Bridge at the end of Casement and Barnes.
Now the bridge across the Casement and Barnes there, that bridge on the highway, that's closed now, isn't it?
Right, it's closed. That's Rocky Ford Trailer Court at the bottom of the picture. And it is, like you say, that Casement Bridge is closed. Dyer Road there is closed. And we're coming up on where the spillway meets the river pond area. This is the flow you're seeing at the bottom of the picture. And this is the river pond area. That area just below us there is the beach. And coming up on the state park office right there, you can see that the water's right up to it.
Now, as our mayor jokingly put it, when this floods over and all the sandbags is going to need some sand to rebuild the beach there at the river pond, and I could choose you why.
Okay, this is to give you an idea of what the water's doing when it comes out of the spillway. This is a flow downstream at 60,000 cubic feet per second.
Now I should ask, the 60,000 is the max the Corps has ever put out of the dam, isn't it?
Oh yes, in fact, this is the max that it's ever. This is the first time in 30 years that they've ever used the spillway.
As I understand it, in what, 1973, didn't water get up into the spillway area, maybe to the base of the gate?
Right, I think, in fact, it was a little bit higher than that. I understood that it was actually up on the gates back in 73, but not near as much water that's in there right now. Again, when you come across, you can see some of the traffic problems that we were having, the parking along the edge of the dam, and people were actually stopping, getting out, and taking pictures. And I think those people were being cited, according to what I heard from law enforcement officials.
No, that's a very dangerous practice.
Right, I wouldn't stop. There are parking areas on the side, and that I would utilize those parking areas. And if you couldn't find a parking spot, wait until there was an opening and use those.
That you should see the water rushing out of the spillway.
There's a lot of water running down here right now, and it is causing some erosion, but Corps of Engineers officials let me know that this is what could be expected, and that everything is functioning properly in the way it's designed to work.
I was just going to ask, even though we hoped it would never happen, the dam and all the spillway area was made to handle just such an emergency, wasn't it?
That's the way I understand it. Every indication that I get from the Corps of Engineers officials are that this is basically standard operating procedures. They have these in place. That's Rocky Ford right there, as you can see at the top of the picture. Coming back around, somebody asked yesterday how much of the river pond area was underwater. To give you an idea, that most of the river pond area was underwater, most of the Canby area.
Okay, now you mentioned the Rocky Ford area. Has that area been officially evacuated?
Rocky Ford Trailer Court?
Right, Rocky Ford Trailer.
I understand Pottawatomie County officials did do that. They did have a picture of it. I know it's been isolated due to the water, but yeah, I understand Pottawatomie County officials did that.
Okay, now, what about the Valleywood area out there? We saw some pictures of that. That area is pretty high, pretty well safe from this. It must get drastic increases.
Oh, I don't. It's a long way from the water. Just to give you an idea, right there, shooting pictures over top of it, you can see how far the water is away from Colonial Gardens. Right there in the Valleywood Addition, there's no water at all to the east of the Valleywood Addition. I think those people are on high enough ground. They shouldn't be affected unless it's due to local flooding by rains. Well, we got to put our plug in for that. Yeah, I'd encourage everybody to go out and use that facility. Okay, we're back on. This is over in Junction now. We had a little technical difficulty with our film. I had superimposed some things on that we didn't feel like needed to be shown. It just said yard waste, and I didn't want to have that on there. This is the spillway area at Milford Reservoir. Give you an idea of what kind of water they've got in that area, and what the spillway looks like. It's an incredible sight to see from the air, and I'm glad that we can share that with you. This is Milford Dam flying over the outlet area. This is that erosion that took place when they fired up a week ago, or cranked up to 22,500. See the large area, took out the parking lot on the right of the picture, and part of the bank on the left side of the picture. At this time, they were only running about 6,500 cubic feet per second. So you can kind of imagine what 22,500 would look like.
Milford, as I understand it, they have a different type of spillway system than they have at the the Tuttle Creek Dam. Why don't you just tell the folks, if you would, the basic difference in the two structures as far as the spillway goes?
Well, they've got an uncontrolled spillway. When the lake gets up so high, this is Junction City here, Grand Avenue area. When the water gets up so high, it runs over, and we found out that due to some of the sedimentation that they did have an increase. At one time they told us that 1176 water would run over. It actually didn't until it got up to 1178.4, I think it was. So and it is running over now over the spillway, where we've got a controlled spillway and a gating system where we can control and actually increase our storage of the lake and let out certain regulated releases. So I think we're in much better shape than what than the people below Milford are.
Junction City's flooding problem, is that as bad as Manhattan's, or just flying over, what did your impression of it?
I think between the two of them, right now we're seeing more damage in the Riley County and Manhattan area than Junction. They did receive some flooding in their industrial park and to the Woolworth building, but overall I think we've got more people that are affected by it right now. This is flying over the Ogden area. This is the old river channel south of Ogden, and some of the Big Sandy Farm. This is the trailer courts that are affected. You can see that the water has got up, and the water is slightly higher. It's about a block farther north than that today.
And as I understand it, most of this flooding area is in the southern part of Ogden, down along the 7 Mile Creek area. Right,
the 7 miles at the north of your screen up there, and it is the southern part that's affected. Now the K-18 bypass has worked somewhat like a levee. Let me change films.
Okay, Pat, we're now looking at some ground footage of the Dix area from basically the levee system. And what I think we'll do now is go back to some of your footage and show some of the rapids that you have excellent pictures of.
Okay, these are pictures down in the state park area. And just give you an idea of what the water looks like in a close-up view. We don't encourage anybody to go out into these areas and view these close up. And I think there's somewhat of a dangerous situation out there. People should be encouraged to take your footage, watch the footage we have here, and this is one reason why we are airing it, is to try to keep people away from those areas and out of danger.
Outside seals out in those areas not only can be a hazard to the emergency crews, but themselves a great danger too, can't they?
Floodwaters of any type, and these even as controlled releases, there are unpredictable areas, backyards, for example, in the river bend area, and we'll probably see that here in a little bit, along the outflow, anywhere along the Kansas and Blue River that is having flooding. It could be a dangerous situation. This is looking at the from the riverbend area right now at the flow.
Now, Pat, one thing I want to mention and caution people on, and have you do it, this floodwater, it's not exactly safe. It contains a lot of minerals, raw sewage, and other contaminants that people should be aware of.
Right, as we showed, several places around here have sewer lagoons that have been breached, and the water is flowing currently through those areas. This water, any flood water, should be perceived as having been contaminated by sewage, and proper precautions should be made to decontaminate yourself if you have to come in contact with it.
I think a sign there says it all, waiting prohibited. What are we looking at now, Pat?
This is the area looking from Rocky Ford Trailer Court to the south. This is Rocky Ford Trailer Court. Just give you an idea of the extent of flooding up there. I know there's a lot of people in our shelters that are wondering just exactly how much flooding is taking place. Of course, this is a spillway area. This is some ground footage from the spillway area. I think just looking at the number of people that drive up and down there, I think everybody in the 4 states have seen that. If we took a poll on how many vehicles ran by that area.
I was going to say, the number of vehicles up there, if somebody had a concession, they would be making a fortune.
And as you see there, the dip at the end is controlling the water and making sure that there's no erosion in that area. This is, again, looking from the backyards of the Riverbend area up toward the Rocky Ford.
Now this is the Blue River when the Tuttle's releasing 60,000 cubic feet per second of water.
Right. This is some of the erosion that's taken place downstream in some of the yards in that Riverbend area that we had warned people about. I'm sorry I don't have this gentleman's name, but he is one of the landowners there, and he does have is showing some of the erosion and what's taking place.
But the thing that strikes me, Pat, about all of this is there's just seems to be water everywhere. If there's a low-lying area, there's going to be water in it.
And as you know, that with the rain last night again, we got different places got 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 of rain, and that just adds to it. This is the Juanita Bridge at Casement. You can see that the water has been up on the bridge, and it is kind of a dangerous situation there if you were to get out on the bridge.
And that's why the emergency preparedness folks have closed the bridge.
Right, we do have a guard station there. You can see debris that's already collecting on the bridge. The road on the other side is closed due to flooding, so there's no reason to cross it, and it's a lot less dangerous for individuals to stay off.
Now the Blue River, even north of that, is really coming out of its banks, isn't it, and getting a lot of the farmland, even more so than to the south?
Well, we're seeing several places where that's occurring, and I think you're right. I think it is cutting across in several places.
I was out there yesterday, and I noticed that it's just south of the dam before you get to the Rocky Ford area. That whole area down there, that low-lying area, there's a branch of the Blue River backing up into a lot of the farms out there that you would never think there would be a branch of the Blue River in there. Well, we're here now, Pat. Looks like we're back in town.
Yeah, right there. Monty did a good job of pointing that out. Parker and Knoxbury. Just to give you an idea of what the flooding looks like there. Not in too many of the houses, but the streets are covered.
And joining us now at Cable 6, we have Marty Weedle, who's a Special Projects Officer for the county. And Marty, I understand you've got some aerial footage that you took this morning around the city. Could you tell us just what we're seeing here, please?
Yes, Jerry, we've been doing this every day to document the flooding as it occurs for damage assessment and, of course, for future information on where the floodplain actually is for mapping and so forth. Here we've just taken off from the Manhattan Airport and we're flying over the Eureka Lake area. You see Scenic Drive at the bottom of your screen. And we're looking at the Kansas River Basin as it coming into Manhattan. You see K-18 highway there. It is going up on K-18 at this point. And this was this morning. The river has come up since then, and it is approaching going over K-18 at this time.
Now, your overall impression of the flooding situation in Manhattan area, just what's your general impression of it?
There's lots of water out there, Jerry. It's obviously a serious situation, and the river's continuing to rise, and it's going to be a long-term thing we're going to have to work on for quite some time yet.
Okay, just what are we looking at right here now?
Okay, this is still the Kansas River coming in around the Stag Hill area and coming in on Hunter's Island, or beginning of Hunter's Island. South Rosencutter Road is where, just around the edge of Stag Hill there.
Mm-hmm. The thing that really strikes me on these pictures is just how much the river seems out of its bank. It's just everywhere. The river just seems to go where it wants to.
That's right. It finds its own path. As we saw out in the Dix edition, where it went where we somewhat anticipated that, but we didn't know for sure where it would go.
Okay.
This is the transfer station out on Hunter's Island, or Melman Bottoms, and as you can see, it has been cut off. Hence, we've come up with a new site.
But people can still get their trash taken away.
That's correct. We've come up with a temporary area to do that. You see the Brown's Trailer Court number 3, I believe, down in the corner. It's inundated there. Coming in on some of Ashland Bottoms, you can see it's going the other direction as well, not just in Hunter's Island.
Okay, and of course this is the Kansas River?
That's correct. Now we're coming, we've made a turn and we're coming in on some of the Ashland Bottoms area again. And there are definitely some areas that are affected out there. And I understand they had a big rain last night on the Wildcat or down the McDowell Creek, and there was quite a bit of flash flooding problems down there.
Now, just about everybody has been evacuated from this area, haven't they?
In Hunter's Island, yes, not in Ashland. This is, I believe it's Pratt Court on Hunter's Island, another small trailer court. And this is a private road area. And an overall look at Hunter's Island. Now you saw Rosencutter Road just to your left. We're looking at, well, where Melman Road starts. And you saw Callahan's mobile home park there to your right. A little small trailer park again. Now we're looking, zooming in on the Northcrest Trailer Court. You can see there are some areas that do not have some water, but quite a bit of the court is experiencing some water at this time.
Now I understand just about everybody has left those trailer courts?
Yes. As far as we know, everyone is evacuated off of Hunter's Island. Now we're coming in on Wildcat Creek in the Pecan Circle area, where there's been some concern here lately. I'm not sure exactly where the sandbagging is occurring, but this is how it's backing up in there.
Yeah, I was out there this afternoon, and it's along those businesses, right along the creek, though.
That's correct. And this is where Wildcat Creek, of course, enters and goes along the levee and then connects with the Kansas River.
Yeah, right now there's quite a sandbagging effort as we speak going on out there at the Pecan Circle area.
That's correct.
But as you can see, folks, the river is just high. I guess that's the only way to put it.
Yeah, this is actually, you know, Wildcat Creek here, and it's being forced to back up from the Kansas being so high. And I'm zooming in on South Manhattan Avenue. And how deep it is at this point, I would just venture a guess that it's 6 to 8 feet deep in there.
Do you have an estimate on how much Wildcat Creek normally carries? I know it's not 6 to 8 feet.
No, that's something you probably need to ask one of our engineers. I could not speak to that really, Jerry. This was looking out at the Zenedale area, and now we're looking at the sewage treatment plant for the city of Manhattan inside the levee. Some water on this side of the levee. You can see how that compares to the riverside.
It looks like the levee is doing its job.
Yes, it is performing very well.
And if we didn't have it, it's obvious from that picture the sewage treatment plant would be underwater.
Yeah. Now this is on the Pottawatomie County side, just across the Blue River Bridge. And you can see how the blue curves around back in and connects with Kansas. Right. Now this is the backwater along the levee that originally got into the Dix addition in the city of Manhattan. And that was originally all backwater from the blue as it connected with Kansas.
But again, you can see the levee there protecting at least the industrial park area.
Yeah, now this is a Dix Encasement intersection where right now it's pretty good flow through there.
As I understand, the Blue River sort of took a shortcut through that area that was sort of unexpected.
We knew there was some potential for that, but here again, you never know what a river's going to do. There were some drainage areas that ran through there, and we knew there was some potential for that. At what point it was going to do that, we did not know. And again, you can see where it came out of its banks and then flowed down through there.
The thing that impresses me is just how much, just the sheer volume of water that's out there.
Right. Now this is Knox Lane looking to the east, and you can see several flows that have begun across there. Fairly good flow at that point.
And again, you can see numerous places where the river is out of its banks.
And now we're looking at the river pond area and zooming in on the Casement River Bridge, or Juanita Bridge, going into Pottawatomie County.
And I should mention the river pond area is absorbing a lot of the water that's coming down the Blue River as it floods. It would normally be going downstream.
I'm zooming in on the Rocky Ford Fish and Game, the dam and the Fish and Game area there, and a house right along the river. And I believe one house has already been lost at this location. Just looking back to Rocky Ford Dam, Fish and Game buildings.
Should tell folks Rocky Ford, in case they don't know, is just below the Blue River Dam, or just below the dam.
Yeah, below the outlet tubes.
Right.
Okay, looking back where the blue makes the curve and goes over the bridge or under the bridge.
Quite a force of water coming out of there.
That's correct. We're looking at the end of the spillway, and we were interested in looking at this levee, a small levee that's been built here quite some time ago that is holding some of the water back, and we're concerned that at some point it may come over that levee.
As you were flying over the area, did you notice any erosion as the water was coming out of the spillway area?
Yes, at this particular point, at the base of the spillway, where there's a road that used to go in there, so you could go dirt biking and so forth up on the spillway. One of the Corps rangers informed us that they had lost approximately 65 feet of roadway already. And that spillway, as it comes down, is eroding that back farther and farther and trying to straighten out its course there.
Here it just looks like an overall picture from of the city.
I believe this is actually photos of the Milford spillway, Jerry. Now we've flown across Fort Riley and gone over to Milford and are looking at the emergency spillway, and a tremendous flow and erosion coming out of that uncontrolled spillway at this point.
Your overall impression, you flew over both areas, is Manhattan or the Junction City the worst off? Maybe an unfair question.
They both have tremendous problems and damage, Jerry. I'd hate to say anything like that. I would assume they would both be declared presidential disaster area. Now this is the flow coming out of the spillway, as you can see, and I took videos when it originally began, and it has carved some tremendous grooves in that spillway.
Yeah, you can,
since it started.
You can obviously see a lot of erosion there just below the spillway area.
Right.
What's Milford releasing somewhere around 35,000 now? About?
The latest estimates that I have is 21,000 coming over the spillway, 10,000 out of the outlet tubes, for a total of 31. But again, that is an estimate.
Right, with it coming over the uncontrolled spillway, it's really hard to estimate how much is coming out of Milford. And while we're speaking of that, Monty, why don't you tell the folks the difference between the spillway at Milford and the spillway at Tuttle Creek?
Well, this is basically, the basic difference is it's an uncontrolled spillway. In other words, if the water level gets high enough, it will just flow out, whereas Tuttle has the gates that they can control how much comes goes out.
And looks like it eroded a road here.
That's correct. And it is carving its way back into the spillway.
And this is again over at the Milford area?
Right.
Amazing the damage water can do.
It really is, Jerry. Now, when it originally started, it was flowing through kind of a creek there, and it's carved some new channels. Now, this is just a picture of the outlet tubes at Milford. Now, you see the outlet tube channel, and I'm zeroing in on the spillway channel. That new channel, basically, that's cut, and you can see the road damage that it has created there. And here's where it enters the outlet tube channel. And you can see up on the upper part, left-handed side of your screen there, where the original channel, when it first started, where the water was coming out. And now it has carved this new channel here. And most of the flow is now going in this direction.
And this is all going into the Kansas River and eventually getting to Manhattan.
Right. Going in the Republican and then into the Kansas River. In fact, here is part of Junction City, and you see the confluence of the two rivers, the Republican here on your left and the Smoky Hill on your right, which forms the Kansas that you see there. And that is what goes to Manhattan.
And then just by Manhattan, the Kansas River meets the Blue River.
That's correct.
And it goes on down to Lawrence and Kansas City and on into
eventually the Missouri and the Mississippi.
So what we're getting here in this area is eventually going to end up in the Mississippi and cause them problems even downstream.
That's correct. And that's why the Corps has to make their decisions based on the total picture of what's going down, affecting everyone else on down the way.
And what are we looking at here, Marty?
Here we're looking at Camp Funston on the bottom side, Kansas River, and we're coming in on Ogden area. We just went by the Kansas River Bridge, and we're coming up slowly on Ogden.
As I understand it, Ogden's main problem is along the 7 Mile Creek area.
No, this is actually Kansas River backup on this side of the highway is their problem at this point. And it's slowly coming around those sewage ponds that you saw through the Camp Funston side and backing into here. Now, it also would back up through some storm drainage structures, but they have plugged those, but they're still getting a backup problem coming around this side of Ogden.
A lot of trailers are obviously underwater.
Right. And now this is just getting part of Ogden and looking at the interchange there. and where 7 Mile Creek goes under the highway. I'm zooming in on that. You see there's no problem right now, but if they do have a heavy rain, that's where they will have another problem. 7 Mile will come out of its banks and add to the problem. Just another look from the other direction at Ogden. Okay, now we're looking at the Manhattan Airport. Going back to look at the 80 edition, Eureka Valley tributary drainage and Eureka Lake as it affects the Job Corps site. That's what we're going to be looking at next.
Okay. Airport area itself, the airport doesn't look like it's in any danger.
It doesn't, no, not at all, Jerry.
What about the Eureka Lake area? Is that in danger of flooding seriously?
Well, the Eureka Lake situation is again just a backup, so it's going to get as high as the Kansas River is. Everything will find the same elevation eventually, and it is starting to back up. For example, the Eureka Valley tributary and the ditch along the Murray Addition on the frontage road. Along those businesses.
And I assume that's Eureka Lake there in the background?
That's correct. There's Scenic Drive, Brits Farm Market, and you see the Job Corps Center, bottom part of your screen.
You got some fantastic pictures here, Monty.
Okay, this is the Job Corps site backing up on the Eureka Lake. And if it gets much higher, Jerry, you can see they may have some concerns there in the very low part. Some of the new buildings are. Okay, this is the church out there on Scenic Drive. You can see it's surrounded by water, but it's still dry because they did build 1 foot above the 100-year floodplain. This is Brits Farm Market, some structures in Eureka Lake wetlands. Looking back at the 80 edition, Eureka Valley tributary. And it is starting to back up in that area.
Well, Marty, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in and giving us these video
Watching
pictures.
TCI Cable 6 TV. As Manhattan's only local origination channel, our desire is to provide community programming